Did you know that the reintroduction of wolves could help save millions of dollars annually in ecosystem restoration costs? It's a shocking statistic that underscores how vital apex predators like wolves are to the health of ecosystems. When predators like wolves are removed, it sets off a cascade of ecological consequences that can cost us greatly in both environmental damage and financial resources. In the case of wolves, their return is not just about restoring one species, it's about restoring entire ecosystems and protecting the future of wildlife. The reintroduction of Canadian wolves into the United States has become a focal point for wildlife conservationists and environmentalists. These majestic animals, once decimated by human activity, have the potential to not only restore balance to ecosystems but also provide economic benefits by promoting biodiversity and reducing the need for expensive wildlife management interventions. In places like Yellowstone National Park, the return of wolves has already demonstrated how these apex predators can help restore natural habitats and keep the environment in balance. Wolves, once lost to large portions of the United States, are now being brought back into the fold, with Canadian wolves being relocated to areas like the American Rockies, where their absence has left a significant void. This process of reintroduction aims to replicate the ecosystem services wolves once provided, from controlling herbivore populations to revitalizing plant life and maintaining biodiversity. The potential impact on both the environment and the economy could be transformative. By reintroducing wolves, we may find that we can address some of the most pressing ecological challenges facing us today. Ecosystems across the United States are facing significant challenges. From disappearing wetlands to the decline of once thriving animal populations, the balance of nature has been severely disrupted. One of the most pressing issues is the loss of apex predators, like wolves. Apex predators are top predators in their ecosystems, and their role is crucial in regulating the populations of other species, which keeps the entire food web in balance. Wolves were once an integral part of the natural balance in the United States, helping to control populations of prey species such as deer and elk, and maintaining the integrity of plant and tree life. However, their disappearance has created a vacuum that has thrown ecosystems out of whack. Without wolves, herbivore populations like deer and elk have exploded, causing overgrazing of vegetation and trees, which in turn leads to soil erosion. This damages plant species and the habitats they support. The lack of wolves has also disrupted the populations of smaller carnivores like foxes and coyotes, which relied on the ecological structure that wolves maintained. The impact goes beyond just wildlife. Overgrazing by large herbivores also affects agriculture, as farmers and ranchers face increased damage to crops and grazing land. This imbalance contributes to a reduction in overall biodiversity, affecting everything from plant life to insect populations. When apex predators are absent, the cascading effects are felt throughout the ecosystem, creating long-term challenges that are expensive to fix. Restoring wolves to their natural habitat may offer a cost-effective solution to these problems. The history of wolves in North America is a tale of decline and potential rebirth. Wolves once roamed freely from coast to coast, playing a vital role in maintaining ecological harmony. However, starting in the early 1800s, settlers began to view wolves as threats to livestock, leading to widespread hunting and trapping campaigns. By the mid-1900s, wolves were nearly wiped out from the contiguous United States, with populations only remaining in isolated pockets in Alaska and Canada. The absence of wolves was not just a loss for the animals themselves, but for entire ecosystems. Without wolves, prey populations ballooned, and the plants and animals that relied on balanced food webs began to suffer. The decline of other species such as beavers, birds, and even insects was directly tied to the imbalance caused by the absence of wolves. For instance, beavers, which are known for their ability to transform landscapes by building dams, had all but disappeared in areas like Yellowstone due to overgrazing by elk. This left a massive gap in the ecosystem, as the absence of beavers led to the loss of wetland areas, affecting fish and plant life. However, the tides began to change in the late 20th century when the idea of reintroducing wolves gained traction. In 1995, after years of legal and environmental efforts, the first Canadian wolves were reintroduced into Yellowstone National Park. This moment marked the beginning of a new chapter for wolves in the United States and started a movement that would inspire other reintroduction efforts across the country. The reintroduction of wolves was not a quick fix, nor was it without controversy. Many ranchers and farmers were concerned about the potential harm to their livestock, while some feared that the wolves might disrupt hunting activities. But as the years passed, the evidence began to show that wolves were benefiting more than just themselves. In fact, they were benefiting entire ecosystems. The story of Yellowstone National Park is one of the most remarkable examples of ecological restoration through the reintroduction of wolves. Before the reintroduction, Yellowstone's ecosystem was suffering. Overgrazing by elk had destroyed riparian zones, leading to soil erosion and a reduction in the populations of smaller plants and animals. The absence of wolves allowed elk to roam freely without any natural predators to keep their numbers in check. When wolves were reintroduced to the park in 1995, the effects were almost immediate. Wolves began to hunt elk, reducing their numbers and changing their grazing patterns. This allowed willow and aspen trees to regenerate, providing food and shelter for other species, including beavers, which began to return to the park. The return of beavers led to the creation of dams, which improved water quality, supported fish populations, and created new wetland habitats. The wetlands in turn attracted new species of birds, fish, and amphibians, creating a healthy, thriving ecosystem. Perhaps most strikingly, the return of wolves had a cascading effect on the broader ecosystem. Smaller predators like foxes and coyotes began to thrive, as the balance between predators and prey was restored. The wolves helped maintain a healthy population of animals at all levels of the food chain, from the smallest insects to the largest mammals. The reintroduction of wolves did more than restore the balance of predator-prey relationships. It helped regenerate entire habitats, proving that one species can have a transformative effect on an ecosystem. The results in Yellowstone have been so successful that they have inspired similar efforts in other parts of the United States, including the Great Smoky Mountains and the Rocky Mountains. These success stories show that when apex predators are allowed to return to their natural habitats, the results can be both ecologically and economically beneficial. The reintroduction of Canadian wolves into the United States could be a turning point for the restoration of natural habitats and the protection of biodiversity. The lessons learned from Yellowstone demonstrate that wolves are not just predators, but vital components of healthy ecosystems. They regulate prey populations, prevent overgrazing, and allow other species to flourish. This natural process is not only essential for the environment, but can also save significant resources in terms of wildlife management and ecosystem restoration costs. Wolves help create a dynamic, balanced environment that benefits both wildlife and human populations. Their return could also boost ecotourism, as more people flock to national parks to witness the revitalization of these landscapes. By fostering biodiversity and promoting ecosystem health, wolves could become a key player in the sustainable management of natural resources. In addition to ecological benefits, the presence of wolves can also provide economic advantages. The money saved from reduced wildlife management costs could be reinvested in other conservation efforts, and ecotourism could create jobs in local communities. As the success in Yellowstone shows, the return of wolves could be a boon for both the environment and local economies. What do you think about wildlife conservation and the reintroduction of wolves into the United States? Could this be the key to restoring America's ecosystems? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to check out my related video on environmental restoration efforts to learn more about how we can work together to protect our planet's biodiversity.